when I look at myself, whether it's in a mirror, in a shop window as I pass by, in the small screen on my camera, in the double chin laden reflection of my phone when the screen goes dim and I'm left with my uninterrupted thoughts for a second, I find myself wanting. And not just in a physical sense, though there is that, and not even just in a philosophical or theoretical sense, but in a real sense of personhood. You know, I'm not who I want to be. I'm not where I want to be geographically, personality wise, mentally. You know, I am not happy with who I am, fundamentally, in a lot of ways. When I look at myself like that, it tends to feel helpless. I tend to feel helpless. It tends to feel like this immutable thing, this unchangeable helplessness just sort of washes over me. And honestly, sometimes it's hard to breathe. Maybe you felt this before. Maybe me even describing it to you right now is making you feel that a little bit. And if it is, I really am. I'm sorry. I guess I'll put a trigger warning at the beginning of this. Depression is hard. Living is hard, even if you don't have depression. I see a lot of stand-up comedy and memes about people who don't have depression and how easy they have it. But I mean, I've known people who don't have clinical depression, and life is still hard, man. We still live in a terribly unfair society, with all manner of alienation, whether or not people are as conscious of it or whether their brains have a certain chemical lack that we do. We shouldn't fetishize feeling the way that we do, even if it's a coping mechanism, maybe. Or maybe we should. I don't know. What I do know is that I'm not the only one who feels this way. And there's a comfort that comes with that. There is. And I guess that's part of my motivation for even making this video. Because there's something about, not to be a, this says a lot about society kind of guy. But in today's world, post-pandemic, highly digitized, we're basically cyborgs walking around with, these devices stapled to our hands. And I'm not even an anti-phone guy, but there's just this. If you're like me and you use a lot of memes to cope, the intense memification of the sort of ostracization, is that even a word? The sort of ostracized feeling that pervades a lot of us is indicative of something dark. And while those memes are a kind of momentary salve, again, kind of pushing forward that feeling of you're not alone, we know that doesn't fix anything, doesn't solve anything majorly. It's the equivalent of taking a sip of water while you're running a marathon. You're gonna need a lot more than that to make it to the end. So just to watch a ton of memes, just look at a ton of memes, and you don't have to drink any water. Is the crux of this advice. I don't know, man. This year has not been kind to me. And I don't want to make this video all about me, except within the scope of me being here for you, or me hopefully getting across some sort of point that maybe you can take home with you and do something with, looking at somebody else currently really going through it. I'm not even going to go into detail about all the things that have gone on through the course of 2022. But suffice to say, it's been rough. And there's a tendency for me when I go through things like this and when I look at myself and find myself wanting in all these ways to be doom and gloom about it all, to feel that helplessness really kind of overwhelm. And to just feel like, I don't know, is it 2-3 days grace of me to say that it feels like life is kind of inescapable misery sometimes? Yeah, that's too 11-year-old eyeliner for me. It makes it hard to see the light, though, for sure. I struggle with that. Something I deal a lot with is overstimulation. And I usually, the first time I tell somebody that I deal with that, like casual people, people that aren't really hooked into Twitter and neo pronouns and all the fun, mental health awareness that we have up here on the deep bowels of the internet, look at me kind of confused, or sometimes people even chuckle, which is okay. I think mostly because the word overstimulation kind of tends to mean like, typically is used to describe, children that are buzzing around the dentist's office, eating toys and chomping on your ankle. Their mother's just like, Jimothy, he's just a little bit overstimulated at the moment. You're like, right, but he is chanting blood for the blood god as he chews on my ankle. He is trying to rip the bones from my flesh. Could you maybe call off the dogs? And they won't, because that isn't positive reinforcement, and that is not good parenting. That's what they read on the Huffington Post or something. I don't know. I deal a lot with that, and what it practically means, if you don't know, is just sound and stimuli just hit me more intensely than other things. So if two people are talking at once, or if there's a lot of conflicting noises or conflicting stimuli like that, it just makes me feel like I'm suffocating. And that's affected my life in a major way. I've put on a lot of weight. Anybody who goes back and watches my previous videos can see that I used to be a thinner man. And if you knew me in the far, far past, I was a very thin man. I don't know. Blame the pandemic. Blame a lot of fast food. Blame depression. I don't know. The point is, I'm a large man. And I don't really mind that. There's nothing wrong with being a bigger person. I don't see that as a flaw in myself. I don't feel good, and that's my problem. I don't like how I feel, which is to say not good. And so that's what I currently am trying to work to change, is the not feeling good. If I look like this for the rest of my life, fine. I have a big guy personality anyway. That's great. More to love, baby. But if I feel this way for the rest of my life, we're going to have problems, because, you don't historically start feeling better as you get older. Anyway, what's my point here? Ultimately, my point is there's a lot going on in myself, and I'm sure if you take a moment to reflect, you might not even need to take a moment, you feel that yourself. And it's so easy to fall get out style into this sort of void and this pit of helplessness and feeling like there's nothing you can do. And, there are some things that extend beyond the personal, like your circumstances, right? Like, I can't help the fact that I'm privileged, right? I have great friends, a good support network. I have stable housing, these things. Not everybody has that. So take what I say with a pinch of salt here, obviously. But on an internal level, right, it can feel hopeless. I feel hopeless sometimes. And what I've been trying to do, and not always succeeding, but really trying to do recently, is just repeat this same phrase in my head over and over again, which is, you are repairable. And it's important to understand that things that need repairing that I'm referring to these are things that you need to decide, not other people. You have to look at yourself, and I mean really look at yourself, and dig deep inward and sit in that void for a bit and ask yourself, what's broken? What isn't getting me down the road? What part of my car is clinking in a awkward and frustrating way? What random check engine light has popped on that, is it that serious? Do I have to take my car to get serviced? That kind of thing. Probably should take your car to get serviced. Probably should look into yourself and try to do some servicing of yourself. There's nothing wrong with masturbating, ultimately, is my point. It does help with depression. Though the post-cum clarity, it hits. So now that we've made this video solidly not family-friendly, there's nothing I can say directly to you that isn't going to sound like self-help nonsense, because it sounds like self-help nonsense to me, but it's self-help nonsense that's been helping me a little bit. Is to just, my grandfather used to say, it costs you nothing to be positive, and it costs everyone around you if you're negative. And that's true. Being a real negative Nancy myself, I've experienced this, and I always thought it was just because I was intellectually brilliant and I could see the way things really were, man. I could see the way that the world was going, dude. And don't be optimistic because we're all going to die from climate catastrophe and, et cetera, et cetera. All true, maybe, but what does it get you? What does it do except make everybody miserable? On a person-to-person basis, anyway. Not necessarily on a philosophical, geopolitical scope, but you don't have to be negative all the time. Again, more self-help bullshit. But I don't know what to tell you, man. It's working for me. Every time something comes up, trying to find some silver lining. And I'll tell you what, you can be negative in a positive way. What do I mean by this? I would like to introduce you to a practice that I have been calling positive nihilism. Like, I'm ugly. Well, pugs are popular pets. People like ugly things if they have enough charisma. Just have charisma. I'm in debt. Oh, big fake number. You got to pay the other small fake number, and then big fake number gets smaller, and then it doesn't mean anything. Now, positive nihilism does not necessarily adequately portray my worldviews or the reality of the situation, but you'd be surprised at how flippantly telling yourself that things don't matter so much because nothing matters can help, ultimately. Think about how absurd it is that we're even standing here. Like, I'm talking into a piece of glass that I'm going to put into some wires in the ground and pipe into a piece of glass that is playing back my image to you. Like, it's all very 3 a.m., 420 deep thoughts kind of shit. And listen, even as I'm saying it now, it sounds stupid. But when I'm sitting there in the deepest depths of not feeling so good, Mr. Stark, it helps. So maybe it'll help you too. But the point of it is, for me, is that my whole life, I have wallowed and felt sorry for myself and gone doom and gloom over the things that go wrong in my life. And it's never done anything for me. It's never done me any favors. It's only ever done me disservice. And so eventually you have to be a smart Albert Einstein and ask yourself, am I being insane right now? Let's just try it the other way. Even if it feels fucking absurd, just try it the other way. And that's what I've been doing. And while it's not simple, it's not 100% effective, there is no fucking fix. There is no quick patch to late stage capitalism and the alienation of the self and all that stuff. A lot of fancy words to say there's no quick way to not feel bad on your insides when you do this way. Sometimes what you need is just some breathing room. Sometimes what you need is just the ability to kind of pop your head above water for a second and grab a before you get pulled back under again. And that's kind of what this has been doing for me recently. It's just, sometimes I feel like I go under for a bit, and then I'm able to pop my head up and say, hey, you know what? I can fix this. There are things about myself that I don't love. I'm not helpless in these things. I have agency. I have tattoos, not to brag or anything. Pretty freaking cool of me, I know. But I have this Hebrew one here. I'm not really sure how clearly you can see it, but it says Timshel. And Timshel is, it's used quite thematically in East of Eden by John Steinbeck. If you haven't read that, give it a read. It's really sad. Good book, though. And essentially what it directly translates to is thou mayest. And now listen, whenever I explain this tattoo to people, I feel like it's very easy for it to come across as sounding bootstrappy. because it essentially means you have free will. You have the ability to change the things that you don't like in your life, or that the things about yourself you don't like. And look, I hate how easily that can be twisted into nonsense. But the way that I've always viewed it, the way that it means something to me, is you are not your deficits. I am not a sick person. I am a person who's sick. I am not a depressed person. I am a person who has depression. And that semantic difference means a lot. It can in the way you view yourself. I am not my illness. I am sick. I'm not broken. I am depressed. I am not lacking. I am as much of a person as anybody else because I can be. And it's that kind of philosophy that I think I've been trying to carry myself forward with, and what I hope maybe could help you carry yourself forward. It's so easy to feel alone in this world. Even when you have good support networks, it's so easy to feel alone. But you're not. You're not alone in the way that you feel, and you're not alone in the sense of companionship either, because you know what, man? I'm here. I'm a message away. Everybody in my Discord, we have a venting and support channel. Nicest people in the world. They're there. There's something to be said about feeling ostracized and feeling like there's nothing for you in this world, or to feel helpless when you fall deep into the void of these things. But I hope that this weird kind of rambling video about trying to be sort of kind of positive in some ways about some things, even if it's in a negative way, will be the Frodo hand into the river on Sam's hands, and they grab, he pulls him out. You know what I mean? Sam walked into that water, man. He knew he couldn't swim. And he walked into that water anyway because he was putting positivity into the world. And that sounds really silly. It's a silly movie about tiny men. I'm talking about The Lord of the Rings, if this isn't clear. I may have made too quick a transition there. But I've been watching them a lot recently. And Samwise Gamgee's a good man. He is what I would say a paragon of positivity. Be like Samwise. Put good into the world. Chase after the people in your life who are worth chasing after. Throw yourself in the river when you can't swim. Trust that there will be a hand there to pull you up, because if you do right, if you look in the right places, there's a Frodo there. There's a hand to reach down to that water and grab you and pull you out. And if not, dude, you'll die such a cool cinematic death. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's all any of us can hope for, really. This is the third time I've tried recording this video. I don't know if I've said anything. I don't know if any of this means anything. But I have so much to feel and to say, and it's been so long since I felt this low. And I remember feeling this low and feeling so alone. And I just don't want that for anybody else. I think there's a tendency to look at people like me, maybe not me specifically, but people on the internet, and think they got it figured out. Look at them. They're on the internet. They're online. They're content creators. What could be wrong with them? And it's so funny, right? Because like I catch myself doing this. Meanwhile, you look at celebrities, they're a fucking mess. Me too. I also am a mess. And I hope that provides comfort, because like none of us have it figured out. No one has anything figured out. You can't figure out the world. You just can't. There are good things and there are bad things. And sometimes there's an even distribution of those things in your life. Often there is not. And what I've told myself for years, and what I'm telling myself extra now with this whole everything is repairable public speaker nonsense. What is that guy's name? Tony Miller? Who's the guy? Someone comment the guy. This might have been in a previous iteration of the video. I don't know. I'm delirious at this point. There was a guy, public speaker. Yeah, you can be a good person. Give me millions of dollars. Tony something. Anyway. Change is inevitable, is what I tell myself and what I'll tell you. If things are good, enjoy them and take stock of them. Don't take them for granted because they won't always be. They can't always be. And if things are bad, fucking hang on, dude. Just hang on. Because they can't always be. They can't. The universe just literally, scientifically doesn't work that way. I don't know enough about universe science to tell you exactly why it doesn't work that way. But any physicists in the chat, validate my opinion down below. Unless I'm wrong. If I'm scientifically wrong, shut up. Because you're not being helpful. You're being a real Neil deGrasse Tyson. Nobody likes that guy anymore because he didn't know when to shut up. Feeling this way sucks. And never gets easier. Not to say that things don't get easier, but feeling this way never gets easier. All you can do is sit with it and try to keep your head above the water. And that's what I'm doing. And this video is an exercise in dog paddling and maybe also screaming to call attention to myself. Like, hello. I'm in the water with you, baby. Might not be that comforting to know I'm also drowning. I am also Samwise in this metaphor. Who the hell's Frodo? Let's just wait until someone will come. Maybe in the meanwhile we can hoist each other up by the collars of our jackets and the leaf clasp of our cloaks. And wait it out together. Don't know. Don't know what any of this is. Hope it's meant something. I'm fine, by the way. Like, please no one message me like, are you okay? Like, I love you, and that's very sweet, but like, I'm cool. Don't worry about me. I got myself figured out. Take care of yourself. Take care of the people you know. Take care of the people you love. And just try to do good. Try to look an evil world in the eye and put good in it. Try to be the good in the world. And maybe the world will put some good back in you. Sounds like the world wants to... Well, doesn't matter. I'm Dan. Thanks for hanging out with me. Sorry this is a weird video. Maybe I'll take it down. Maybe it'll stay up forever. Maybe it'll go viral and I can go on Facebook and I'll be like with those dudes that are viral on Facebook. I don't know. Next week I'll have a normal video. There's another deck tech. It's a really cool deck. So you better fucking stick around. All right? All right. I love you very much. You're good people. And you're loved. And come to my Discord and hang out. It's fucking... No one's talking in there. It's fucking embarrassing for me. I need people to talk in my Discord. See you next week.